Wrestling has won.
This sucks, but a lot of good stories have a lot of pages.
The American Nightmare has arrived! This is what happens when you, with the final boss,
The prophecy has come true.
Cody Rhodes has ascended to the very top of WWE. As the tagline goes, from undesirable to undeniable, it proves to be the case for Cody Rhodes. He is undeniably WWE's top star. From the sellout crowds to the merchandise sales, TV ratings, the attendance at the PLEs, Cody Rhodes is everywhere. And for his fans, we saw him go through a 2-year story arc in WWE, which used to be unheard of. And fans actually got the payoff that they were hoping for with this giant, grand, endgame-like finish to his story, defeating Roman Reigns and getting past the final boss in The Rock, at least for the moment. For me as a wrestling fan, I was a fan of Cody Rhodes' story because it's been just that, a story. It wasn't just the matches or the moment-to-moment wrestling that I would enjoy. It's the whole thing. It's everything culminating together at WrestleMania 40. I've been invested in this story and this journey for over 2 years. And to see the character go from one company back to another one, going through injuries and the hurdles and the story and the backstage and the real politics going on with it. And as we inch towards WrestleMania 40, the uproar of the fans revolting against The Rock, creating the final boss character. It was a massive story arc that as a fan, I was invested all the way through. Now when WrestleMania 40 ended, I immediately got excited and wondered what's gonna happen next. And as a fan, that is usually the piece that I really love about wrestling, is the next chapter. It's the anticipation of what's going to be the next thing, what's the next story beat. What are we going to expect? And the ride that you go on from the whole story, from the beginning to the end. Not only what's going on in the ring, in the match, but everything else. The promos, the storytelling, the confrontations between the two characters. Cody Rhodes' journey to become champion was a necessary and one that signified a big changing of the guard and a new chapter of WWE, almost as a new beginning. And we have seen incredible storytelling from WWE recently with the multi-year story arc of the Bloodline, the evolution of Judgment Day, and the rise of new superstars, new talents to the main roster. Overall, for me, WWE has just been exciting to watch overall. It's by no means perfect. There's always things that they need to do, but it's been a lot more fun recently to watch the product. So as WrestleMania 40 came to a close, I couldn't wait to see the next chapter and what it was going to be for the new undisputed champion. And I think a lot of fans were feeling anxious and kind of excited about what was going to happen next. Was it going to be The Rock? Was it going to be Roman Reigns? What obstacles, what adversity will the new champion face? But this is where I feel the story is starting to turn, and where I feel Cody Rhodes might have a bit of a problem. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a fault of Cody Rhodes. It's a lot to do with the storytelling, the creative behind it, and the direction that the character is going in. It can be very difficult to craft a story where you have the triumphant hero finally winning at the end. And instead of closing the book, ending it, finishing the movie, lights turn off, the end of a series on Netflix that you binge watch, doesn't work like that in wrestling. You tune in the next week to see how it's going to keep going. And part of the challenge that I see for Cody Rhodes, and I think a lot of fans are starting to see, is making him an interesting, compelling character that goes through enough real adversity now that he is champion. After WrestleMania 40, Cody would go on to have a number of challengers. WWE Backlash in France, we had Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Awesome match, by the way. King of the Ring, it was Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. Clash at the Castle, we saw another match between AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, but this time it was an I Quit match, all which Cody obviously retained the title. And throughout all of this, the story arc of the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes, the tension there had been building and led us to Money in the Bank, where we had the 6-man tag team match of the new Bloodline, Solo, Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, Tonga Loa in the corner against Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes. And we saw the heels go over. We saw the bad guys win, furthering the story and once again the story arc of Cody Rhodes against the Bloodline. And as the story has continued between Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline, for months now, we have seen people going through tables. Seemingly every other week, somebody else is going through an announce table from the Bloodline. Cody Rhodes getting beaten down, having to do the one-to-one promos with Solo Sikoa overcoming the adversity of this new bloodline, resulting in the big match at SummerSlam where Cody Rhodes retained the title against Solo Sikoa in a Bloodline Rules match. And part of the challenge for me as a wrestling fan was how this match was ultimately decided in terms of the storytelling that was done within it. We had 10-15 minutes of a regular match, which we were all just kind of waiting to see what the big story moment was going to be. And part of the challenge with the Bloodline Rules match and those types of matches, I think it can take the fans out of it a little bit because we're waiting for the story piece. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it does take away from the actual wrestling piece of it when you are so engaged and just waiting for the story piece. And that story piece being the return of the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns. We saw the Superman punch, the spear to Solo, and Cody retained his title. And if you look at all of the matches that Cody has had in the months after WrestleMania, on paper, it looks really, really good. These opponents and these matches are great, but I don't feel that they have lived up to the high standards that the previous 2 years held with Cody Rhodes and the story that he was going through. And I don't expect that WWE gets to those high of highs right away. You need ebbs and flows, you need peaks and valleys within your storytelling. But since WrestleMania, for a lot of fans, it's kind of felt that Cody's story has been a little bit on the flat side. And this is something that we saw happen after WrestleMania 39, where Cody had a multi-month rivalry against Brock Lesnar. And after a while, it just started to feel like these two were just spinning their wheels and they got it over with at SummerSlam, where Brock Lesnar holds up the arm of Cody Rhodes and appoints him as the man, as the guy. And it felt like after SummerSlam, we finally were getting things into gear for the next chapter of Cody's story, and that we had to get through the Brock piece to kind of fill time in some regard. And so 1 year later, it feels like we are right back at the exact same spot again. And this is where I feel WWE needs to be very careful when booking Cody Rhodes, because now we're at a point where Roman Reigns has made his return to WWE. And this time, he is a giant babyface. He is the one that the fans are cheering for the most when he is not on TV, when he is not there. Now that he is back, there is the risk that Roman Reigns outshines Cody Rhodes and possibly takes away his momentum and his spot at the very top of the mountain. So is this a risk, or is WWE in such a healthy place creatively that they see these things and they know that this could be an issue and they don't need to worry about the reception of Roman Reigns or The Rock when he inevitably returns, that they've got it all figured out? Cody has his supporters and he is a great champion and a compelling storyteller. And Cody's story itself has been a ton of fun to watch, like I said. But the question I have is it valid that people start to feel the way they feel about the story so far after WrestleMania 40? That it's starting to feel a little boring or a little repetitive. And it's, again, not necessarily on him. It's the character. It's how the character is written. It's what we see on week-to-week TV and what is presented to us, and knowing you can't always have these giant cliffhanger moments every single week. You need to have the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs to build to the larger moments that will happen. But this is kind of the inherent problem of trying to book a strong babyface as your world champion. You built Cody Rhodes to be Captain America, and he can't be defeated. A champion like this needs adversity, and in some regards, he has had the adversity. He's had the adversity of the bloodline, AJ Styles, Logan Paul, like we've mentioned, but has it been really enough? Has it felt like the title has been at risk, that Cody's story is at risk? And has it felt like it even mattered, or that we are looking at our watches wondering, well, when is The Rock coming back? When is Roman Reigns going to return and make the story more compelling again? If we go back many years to the Attitude Era, one of the great things for me as a fan watching that time was the amount of star power at the very top. From Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind. You had so many characters at the very top that could all be champion any given month. Today, WWE really likes to have one main representative of the company, one figurehead, and that makes total sense from a marketing perspective and being able to brand the company, rally behind one main star. From today with Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, you have one main focal character that represents the brand. It makes total sense. But one of the issues with that is they build these characters up to where no one else is really viable to take them down. Cody doesn't wrestle every single week as the top superstar. Good for him. He doesn't have to get into a lot of pain, and he can focus on these big, large moments and matches. Makes total sense. But as that is happening, you have the risk of not getting any bigger heels adversaries coming after the main champion and making it believable. And so for a lot of fans, it can end up feeling like they are sitting and waiting for the next big story moment, and that everything in between is just kind of filler. So is it? Are we all just sitting around waiting for The Rock to return to make TV more compelling with Cody? Are we all waiting for Roman Reigns to give us an idea of the story path that he'll be on and what impact it'll have on Cody Rhodes? And now that Cody has finished the story and we're into the epilogue, is it getting a little stale? So how do you protect it? How do you keep it from getting boring, from getting potentially stale or repetitive? How do you protect the entire story of the character to where fans don't turn on him or hope to see him lose down the road? And is there a risk that WWE is making with Cody Rhodes? Could they potentially be having him go from undeniable to undesirable?